But I just want to say that this point of yours, Russian conspiracy theorists can't explain their beliefs, is not exactly the point I want to argue.
Oh, okay. Just feel free to clarify
All right.
position.
Well, you seem to be underneath either you think there's two things you either think. You either think the dossier is treason, or you think the dossier isn't treason, and then what Trump did is perfectly acceptable. And I don't know which one of those things you're going for, but I can't see. I mean, like, what do you think? You think Trump? You seem to think what Trump did is acceptable, or what Trump?
See, that's actually why I prefer this format, because that's actually the very first time you've even asked what my position is. So I'm glad we're making some kind of progress there. Now I can explain to you what I actually do believe, but rather than you inventing positions for me and then attacking those positions.
But is that what it is that you're like thinking that like what Trump is accused of doing is perfectly acceptable for any candidate, past and future, to do?
Oh yeah. I absolutely. So here's my position, and I've maintained this position for over a year now. I wrote several articles, made videos on the issue. I think the entire Russian hoax is a manufactured. It's a hysteria, I guess. It's a media manufactured hoax, essentially, that was started by the Democratic Party and the Hillary campaign.
Right.
All the evidence that has come out since last year, when I first began reporting on this, has only confirmed and strengthened my original suspicions. It is for sure the case that there was never any merit to these accusations from the beginning.
See, I think it originates out of the intelligence community. I think that, I strongly believe that now, whether the intelligence community is overstepping their legal rights or their legal boundaries is totally a different argument. But I think this goes back to like before the election, before 2016. I think a lot of the people that were involved in this campaign are involved with Russian activities, and this campaign was very much like
what kind of activities?
Well, like Paul Manafort was involved in a lot of Ukrainian shit, and then more like it, like Trump was getting a lot of his funding from Russian banks. Well, a decade.
A lot, like how much?
Well, they funded this Toronto hotel, which he was half ownership in, was funded purely by the Russian National Bank, which is Russian governmentally controlled and owned. And over 10 years ago, back in the 2000s, no banks were loaning any money to Trump. And his son actually went in public and said in a lecture that he gave out that the money dried up in America, and there's no money to be given to them for any more whatever expansion of their business and name brand, that now they were receiving funding from Russia. And that was the Russians were throwing money at them at the time. There's also a bunch of other stuff that no one's really.
But no, what's suspicious about that in your view?
Well, nothing's particularly suspicious about that, but this is how it starts. So now you have a Trump's in business with the Russian government, which is completely fine. Like, lots of people are in business with a lot of foreign governments.
To me, that sounds like Obama lived in Indonesia. Therefore, he's a Muslim.
No.
That's
it sounds like. No, this is how it starts. So you start with that, right? And
yeah, I agree. It starts there with insinuation.
But relationships over time start deteriorating with the Russians, between the U.S. government and the Russian government. Relations start deteriorating. As these relationships start deteriorating, they start imposing sanctions on Russia. And then these sanctions makes it harder and harder for someone in a position that's in business with the Russians to continue doing business with the Russians. So then they find all sorts of tricks, like they start doing all these tricks to try to get around the sanctions. And so you don't want to just, okay, I guess I'm just gonna spill my business down the drain because of these sanctions. You try to find ways to kind of money launder, try to go through third parties. You try to do whatever you can to keep.
Trying to get rid of the sanctions.
Not get rid of the sanctions, but try to go around the sanctions, or try to at least continue your business with them in a way that's on the books, doesn't look too illegal, like that.
Okay, so what does that have to do with Trump?
Okay, well, Trump Trump is one of these characters that's in business with the Russians as sanctions are right before and throughout the sanctions, where he's trying to find ways and
So he was doing business with specific companies and individuals who were sanctioned. Is that what you're alleging?
he was receiving funding from the National Bank of Russia. I can't remember the name. It's got these DBEK or some shit like that. Like, but they funded his Toronto.
And that was during the sanctions period, or because you said 10 years ago
Specifically, yeah. Well, he started doing business with them over 10 years ago. But specifically, the one that the Toronto funding was during the sanctions, and they funded 100% of the Toronto hotel in Toronto, Canada. And
is that illegal?
And the RCMP and the Canadian intelligence community are the ones that, and I don't think that I think this is just one incident, but I think there was many incidents that took place that we don't really know 100% about. But the Canadians actually were like, "Yo, so there's some Russian money getting pumped into our country, and it's getting pumped into like one of your guys' guys, you know." And then they looked into it, and then Trump, I think. I'm not 100% clear on this, but then I think he pulled out of that project when heat started coming onto it. But there's also stuff with like not just Trump, but other people that were involved in his campaign, such as Paul Manafort and other people.
Well, let's stick to one thing at a time. I don't want to do a gish gallop. So you're saying that Trump? Are you saying that he broke the sanctions or that he did something illegal?
I think it's hard to say if he broke it. But he was definitely flirting with breaking it if he didn't break it. Like he was definitely.
Like what specifically? What do the sanctions say?
You have to see his taxes, and you have to see the way that the money's. You have to follow the money, and I can't follow the money because these are documents that are not available to us. But it is.
Okay, so how do you know about it? Then,
well, I know specifically about the Toronto. The Toronto one was made public in Canada. Like Canada actually made that public. They're like.
Was that illegal? Is that a crime of some kind?
As far as the Canadian government was concerned, it was very illegal. It was it was illegal.
Okay, so why wasn't anyone charged? Why wasn't Trump charged?
Because he managed to say, "Oh, I just leased out my name to this person, to this third party, and then that third party was the one that was building the hotel. The funding for the hotel was coming from Russia, and then it went to this person and not to me." And then it did find its way.
And so obviously the Canadian government agreed with that reasoning. I'm taking I've never even heard of this before.
So look into the Toronto Trump Hotel and you'd hear about basically that person.
Okay. Is that your main line of evidence? That's the main thing that has you convinced?
Not the main thing, but it's definitely one.
What are the top three?
Well, top three. It's not top three. It's more of like a picture of what is happening, and like convinced about what exactly? Convinced that Trump was breaking the sanctions, or convinced that Trump was in cahoots, in business with the Russians?
No, I don't know. This is your conspiracy theory. So my thing is, I want to ask you, what do you believe, and why do you believe?
I believe Trump has so many bankruptcies that
what you think happened exactly.
He did not get any more funding from American banks. So he started getting funding from Russian banks. And then that was before the sanctions and before the Russian-American relationship started deteriorating. Then the Russian-American relationship started deteriorating. And when that started happening, sanctions started coming in. But he was still receiving funding from the Russian banks, and he didn't want that funding to dry up. So then he started getting really clever, like a lot of people do with a lot of different things. He started getting really clever about how to bypass those sanctions, whether through third parties, like what he did in Toronto, or through money laundering or whatever he had to do to kind of like keep the money flow happening, but not outright break the sanctions, because you get caught right away doing that. And by doing that, like I think he attracted a lot of more or less like attention to himself and the intelligence community that were actively seeking people who were doing this type of activity, who were trying to break the sanction.
Wait, so Trump was under investigation before he ran for president?
Not necessarily, but people he was doing business with were, like the Toronto guy that he did business with in Toronto, like the Toronto hotel, that guy got he got indicted. Like he broke sanctions. He was found guilty of that. And that was a guy that was building Trump Tower in Toronto. You can't tell me they don't know each other. He's literally putting Trump on his building. Like it's.
Yeah, but then so why wasn't Trump under investigation?
Because Trump's saying hey, he's just leasing his name out. Oh, I didn't know where he got the money from. I'm just leasing my name out, So this guy took the money. I didn't ask him where the money's coming from, and then he just gave me a share of that money for my name,
So apparently the intelligence community didn't see a problem with this explanation. So why do you have a problem with it?
Well, it's not that they didn't see a problem with it. It's that they didn't see, okay, there's no smoking gun. There's no way of saying that he actually knew.
But this time they have a smoking gun, right?
What?
They have a smoking gun now, right? Because they're ostensibly
necessarily. I don't think they have a smoking gun, but they definitely have.
You just said that the reason they weren't investigating him is because they didn't have a smoking gun.
No, there's a difference between investigating and keeping tabs on. Like you could be under watch, and could call that an investigation, I guess. But you could definitely, you could be under surveillance. Nowadays, man, it doesn't take very much to be under surveillance. You could be under surveillance. And it doesn't necessarily mean there's a full-blown investigation into any wrongdoing. They're just keeping tabs on you. I don't know if would that be considered an investigation? Would that be you're a person of interest? Is there a difference between you're a person of interest or, you know what I mean?
Was he a person of interest? I don't know. You have to explain to me what exactly you mean by that. Was he a person of interest?
I think he was considered a person of interest to the intel.
When was this? 10 years ago? 5 years ago?
I can't tell you. I'm not in the know. I just know that he was definitely in him.
Okay,
Circle were.
He had this hotel in Canada with some Russians. He had some kind of Russian deal.
Right, but there was more to it than that too.
Okay. But then so later, and then the sanctions came in, and the money dried up. So what then? Then he conspired to run for president so he could lift the sanctions?
Well, not necessarily. I think his reasoning behind running for president are a little more complex than that. But
well, yeah, probably.
Hold on. I should point out that the hotel funding occurred during the sanctions, and that wasn't like hotel was built, then sanctions came in. That wouldn't be a problem. The problem was that the sanctions were in, and then the hotel got built after with the money of the Russians. When the sanctions were in place, where they weren't supposed to be accepting money from Russia, and they were accepting.
Well, apparently, no crime was committed on the part of Trump. So
right, right. No, that's right. And if you have some really good accountants and you have some really good lawyers working for you, you can definitely find ways around things.
Okay. So no evidence of a crime, but then sanctions come in, and then what?
You didn't commit a crime doesn't mean that you don't have any heat on you. Like just because you didn't commit a crime doesn't mean that people aren't. Hey man, that you're kind of close to these people. You're a person.
So they were watching him for however long, and he still wasn't under investigation.
Maybe they weren't necessarily watching him either. Like you're saying him personally, but they were definitely, I believe, watching a lot of people within his circle and within his business dealings, like within his what I would call his, his business circle.
Okay, so after spying on all his friends, apparently they didn't find any evidence that Trump was actually doing anything wrong. So then what happened?
Did they find if they did anything wrong? I can't tell you. Like I said, I haven't seen the file. Nothing's made public yet. But
well, what do you think happened? What do you believe happened?
I believe that he was.
What is collusion? How did Trump?
The collusion thing came in during the election. Like that, this collusion idea came in more like. So, you're not. So,
well, what is that? First of all, what's collusion? I don't know.
Okay, well, a foreign nation is not allowed to donate money into your party, correct? Right? Okay, so if they're not allowed to give you money, they're also not allowed to help you in any way. They're not allowed to open up a call center in Moscow and start phoning people. Hey, have you thought about voting Republican? They're not, that's a cool.
Would they do that?
No.
In your opinion?
Well, arguably, if what the intelligence community says is true, and they set up bot centers and Facebook bots and all that, that's pretty much setting up a call center. That's a 21st century way of calling people is sending them.
Wait. Who in the intelligence community said, and what they set up they set up Russian bots? Is that what you're saying?
Russian bots and social media, yeah. Like
the Russian government did, or somebody in Russia?
Well, okay, I don't know the full details of this, but ultimately it leads back to the Kremlin. Like it was it was public funded. It wasn't privately funded by a private Russian oligarch or anything like that. It was.
Have you ever seen any evidence to indicate that that's true?
Me personally, I can't say I have because I'm just a dude living in Hawaii, But from what I could tell,
but if James Clapper or John Brennan say that's true, you probably just believe it, right?
What I've seen is that Twitter itself has come out and said they found like 100,000 accounts or
100,000 accounts,
shit like that, man. Twitter came out and said, and they actually started contacting a lot of people that these accounts were being fed to, or like people who were in communication with these accounts and said, hey, by the way, you were in a lot of contact with a fake Russian account, And then now, you go to Reddit and you go to R the Donald, which is where pretty much all Reddit Donald Trump supporters kind of hang out, and they're being like, oh no, I know these people personally, Twitter's gone crazy, and it's like, I don't know, do you know them personally, or you're just talking shit, I don't know. But
I can tell you for sure that I've been shadow banned from Twitter.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I've personally been shadow banned from Twitter. And, I would say 2 or 3 years ago, there was actually some Russian in control of my Twitter. I had abandoned Twitter for many years, and within that time period, an actual Russian took over my Twitter account, cracked my password, which was something standard. I never really used Twitter,
right.
But he was posting some kind of it was kind of mostly nonsense, but advertisements about yeah, no, it wasn't political at all. But a Russian had control, and there are many Russians like this, and I suspect the vast majority of Russian accounts are something similar to this.
I remember watching the Congress inquest or interview with the social media people, like Facebook and Twitter and those guys, and one of them, I can't remember which congressman, but he brought up, it was a Democratic congressman, but he brought up an instance where there were these 2 Russian accounts, and one was a pro-Muslim account and one was a anti-Muslim account. And the pro-Muslim account, they already organized an event in Texas for like Muslim rights and for like a pro-Muslim event, and then the anti-Muslim account organized an anti-Muslim event at the same location at the same time as the pro-Muslim account. Apparently, Facebook, now in this inquest that they did, Facebook said that this cost a total of $200 for these 2 accounts to set these events up. Ultimately, the goal was to have a bunch.
Why should anyone care about that?
Because this is what is going on. This is what the problem is. If by setting up a pro-Muslim and an anti-Muslim event, you're trying to get people all riled up. You're trying to tear the nation at its seams. You're trying to make people hate you are. When you have people fighting in the streets is when you have problems. You have.
So if you have a meetup and you see someone who disagrees with your view, you should probably go kick their asses, right?
That's not what I think, but that's what a lot of people think.
Oh, okay.
Ultimately, that's what kind of occurred. They created these 2 events for the sole purpose that these people would meet at these events, and then.
Well, according to Twitter, I mean, we don't know for sure if that's
Facebook, but this was a Facebook that actually.
Well, the other thing about Facebook is they couldn't even name the Russian government because they don't have any evidence that the Russian government had anything to do with any of this.
Right.
They could go read the report. They can't even name the Russian government because the evidence is so flimsy.
Right. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I know that Facebook is, all these social media companies, from what I understand, have not denied that social media was used in 2016 by a foreign power.
By a foreign power. No, they said there were Russian-linked accounts. Those were the precise words that were.
Well, that would mean a foreign.
Nobody in Facebook, Twitter, or the U.S. government or any journalist has been able to produce any evidence of an actual Kremlin, Putin-supported, ordered program influence campaign.
You say they haven't produced any evidence, but how do you know that?
Well, where's the evidence then? Have you seen it?
It's classified, dude. You gotta understand.
Okay. So some secret evidence, right?
Well, do you think intelligence community is just going to release their evidence before?
So secret evidence from two known liars, James Clapper and John Brennan, two people who have absolutely lied, testified under oath.
Okay, hold on.
They asked James Clapper, is the NSA spying on millions of Americans? Nope, not us.
Okay, but
months later, Edward Snowden comes out, says, James Clapper lied under oath.
Sure.
Democratic Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon. So he lied. He's the guy who produced the Russian hacking report. And on top of that, these people represent organizations with a known history of lying.
Okay.
The CIA, are they somehow now the paragon of all truth and fact? The fact that it came from the CIA makes me even more skeptical and more suspicious of the claim. I require even more evidence than I otherwise normally would.
Right. Well, why don't you just let things play out, and then you'll see the evidence when
Well, we've let it play out for over a year.
A year's not very long, dude. A year's nothing. A year is nothing.
Okay. So within the last year, here's what we've discovered.
Yeah.
We've discovered that this entire thing was based on a known fake dossier.
That's not true. That's what you think.
No, it was.
No, it wasn't.
The FISA warrant says that. So how would you?
You've never seen it. Have you seen the FISA warrant?
The FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe testified under oath that the warrant.
He said that no, he did not. McCabe actually said that he was misquoted in that memo.
Okay. Well, so the FISA memo came out quoting Andrew McCabe saying.
Have you seen the FISA? Have you seen it?
Then I'll let you go. Let me finish and I'll let you go. I have not seen it. So let me finish and then you can respond.
Sure.
The FISA memo came out. They quoted Andrew McCabe. So all the House Republicans signed off on this in the Senate Intelligence Committee. They said that Andrew McCabe testified under oath that was the fundamental basis for the dossier was a fundamental basis for the FISA warrant, and it would not have been sought without it. One day before the memo is released, mysteriously, Andrew McCabe is forced to resign by Christopher Wray. What a coincidence. On top of that, the Democratic media then tries to spin this and say, well, we don't know if that's true or not, because that's what the Republicans say. Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee, Grassley and Graham, produced their own memo saying, look, we have seen the FISA warrant, just like Adam Schiff and Trey Gowdy, and we can confirm everything that was in the FISA memo. We have seen the warrant. There were 4 different times that this was approved, and each time the dossier was the fundamental basis of the warrant application. So unless Senators Graham, Grassley, and Congressman Trey Gowdy are all lying, and they would be lying. There's no ambiguity here. They're either lying or they're telling the truth.
I don't think they're lying, but I think your reasoning is fundamentally flawed. Do you understand what a FISA warrant is?
Yeah.
Do you know what it takes to get a FISA warrant?
Yeah, I know that they're very rarely, if ever, turned down. But go ahead.
So you don't really know what the minimum standard is needed to get a FISA warrant. Well, I could be like, that guy sneezed, and I got a FISA warrant on him now, right?
Incredibly flimsy.
Yes. And do you understand that now? A FISA warrant standard to get is actually lower than what a civil warrant is in the United States on an American citizen.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So we kind of know what do we need to get an American warrant on an American citizen, right? Like a traditional type of warrant. And we know that basically if someone calls in anonymously and gives off a tip about a drug dealer on some corner or some pot grower or something like that tip alone could be used to get a warrant, right?
No, not the tip alone. But I want to stop you for a second because I know which direction you're going, but that still wouldn't be an explanation for why they used the fake dossier.
They could use anything. Oh, I mean,
what do you mean they could? Why would they use a document that they knew that was fake?
Well, first off, from what I know, I'm just giving you the benefit of the doubt that they actually the dossier was the fundamental thing that they were using.
Well, if it's not, then those 2 senators and Trey Gowdy are lying. Okay. So it has to.
You know how many pages the dossier is? It's like
what?
How many pages is it? It's like
what, the dossier?
Yeah.
35 pages.
35 pages. But I heard the warrant application was over 100 pages. So
okay, well, in any case, Grassley, Graham, and Trey Gowdy all agree on the fact that the FISA warrant that Andrew McCabe testified under oath that the FISA warrant or the dossier was the fundamental basis of that warrant.
From what I heard, McCabe's words were taken out of context. Like he was saying that.
Heard that from the Democrats and the media, but then just today, Grassley and Graham, who actually have seen the memo, they confirmed everything that was in the memo. They confirmed the memo. So unless these three people are lying, and
there's two possibilities. They're either kind of like twisting the truth a bit, or they're not twisting the truth, right? And if they are twisting the truth, they're twisting it. But the facts remain that even if they're not twisting the truth, that the application was.
You can't twist that. Either McCabe said that or he didn't. It's really clear. They're either lying or
what he said is that it was fundamental to the application, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, can you not say that about every people?
No, he said that the warrant would not have been sought without the dossier, and 3 people have confirmed that.
I find that hard to believe, but even if it is true, then it still doesn't say that. Like, I don't understand why you think that it somehow this warrants the warrant.
No, I'm saying that this never should have been brought to the FISA court at all. Period.
Why not?
Because it was known to be fake at the time.
How do you know it's fake?
Well, everyone knew that. So this dossier had been shopped around D.C. for months to every news organization in the country.
Right.
And guess what? Nobody wanted to put their name behind it. Not fake news CNN, not MSNBC, not Politico, not even Occupy Democrats was willing to put their name behind this dossier.
BuzzFeed was the first.
And yet you're telling me the FBI had less sense and less competence than fake news CNN?
Okay, I saw a representative of the FBI talk on the TV, and he said that in the case of the dossier, they vetted part of it. Part of it was vetted. So either he's lying or someone else is lying. Right? He said
the part of it was vetted, even though it was so fake that no news organization.
You say it's so fake, but you don't have any real like. What is this idea that
I've just stated my case?
What?
No news organization was willing to put their name behind it.
Obviously, the FBI did. BuzzFeed.
Oh, I didn't realize the FBI is a news organization. But okay, yeah.
BuzzFeed
but we also know
BuzzFeed was all over it. What do you mean the CNN was all over it? What are you saying? The organization was willing to put their name behind it.
So after James Comey decided to brief President Trump and President Obama, President-elect Trump, on this fake dossier.
Why are you using that word fake?
Well, it is fake, but hang on.
Why do you think it's fake?
Hang on a second.
What's fake about it?
Let me finish. Okay. He then leaks that information to the press. BuzzFeed uses this as an opportunity to report on the known fake dossier, which they previously never wanted to put their name behind. But now they had an excuse because Comey briefed the president on it. And so once BuzzFeed did that, that allowed fake news CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Everyone else was allowed to report on this fake dossier once BuzzFeed did that. So that was the origin of that story.
So you're saying it's fake, but yet that's not what I've heard. I've heard that part of it was vetted. And I heard this from people that work for the FBI that were representing the FBI.
It's a good document, yet none of Trump's enemies in the media were willing to put their name behind it. But hey, the evidence is so good and so vetted. Let's take it to the FISA judge. Oh, and then let's lie to the FISA judge about.
I heard part of it was vetted. I mean, like, was part of it vetted?
So let's lie to the FISA judge about the origins of this document. Let's not even tell him that it was bought and paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. First of all, by the way, what is collusion again? Did Donald Trump Jr. commit collusion?
Okay, you're allowed to hire a private investigator. You're allowed to.
Okay, that's the distinction. So it's collusion when you don't have a third-party intermediary.
For sure. Like, come on, man. Like, do you not know this?
Still collude with Russians then.
Even fucking Trump's golden boy, the dude from Breitbart, was like, they should have never met with them. They should have sent lawyers to meet with them. You know.
So that is or isn't collusion.
You cannot go and meet with a foreign representative. That makes you representative of your nation.
But if you send your lawyer to do that, then it's okay. Okay.
If you don't like the system, we could argue the system.
Well, then did Christopher Steele collude with Russians? Did Christopher Steele collude with Russians? Yes or no?
I don't know. I don't know what he.
Okay, so we know for sure he got some information from his Russian contacts.
We
So
don't know what kind of Russian contact did he get?
he was getting political dirt on Trump from Russians. Is that collusion?
What Russians though?
Oh, does it matter which Russians? Oh, is it only certain Russians, or how does that?
A Russian private citizen is not the same as a Russian diplomat or a Russian.
Oh, okay. So the Russian lawyer who does not actually work for the Russian government, she's a lawyer. Is she the right kind of Russian, or is that a different kind?
From what I understand, is that she was on the time of the Russian government. Like she was sent by Russian representatives of the government.
Well, there's no evidence to indicate that's the case. That's not who set up the meeting at all. Actually, she had done work for the Hillary campaign as well, but apparently that's not collusion, right? Because she's a lawyer. Oh, by the way, she's a lawyer, attorney-client privilege. Let's shield ourselves from any kind of scrutiny because it's a lawyer.
You don't understand how the system works. There needs to be a buffer between.
Oh, I'm not an apologist for the system.
No, but if you're representing the American government or you're representing the campaign, let's say the Trump campaign, you can't just go around meeting with foreign nations' governments. You can't.
Why not? Why can't you do that?
Because then you're an agent of it's diplomacy. Like you just can't be a diplomatic agent. You know, you have to go. There needs to be a buffer.
So is a Russian lawyer necessarily a diplomatic agent or foreign agent? And so, what is a foreign agent? I don't even understand what that means.
I gotta look it up, but it's actually pretty clear in the laws. Like it's really clear. You have to register if you're for example, Carter Page was considered an agent of Russia, like a foreign agent, and so was Manafort. Failed to register.
Okay, so was the people that were met in Trump Tower, was she a foreign agent or not?
Honestly, I can't tell you. I don't know everything.
But if she was not,
this investigation is very secretive. Like there's a lot.
If she was not, that means she wasn't a foreign agent. Is that what you're saying?
From what I heard from
that wasn't collusion. I'm sorry.
Is that she was a foreign agent.
Okay, so if she is a foreign agent, it's collusion. If she's not, then it's not collusion.
Arguably, yeah.
And also, if they had sent a lawyer instead of going themselves, that also would not be collusion, even if she's a foreign agent. Is that what you're saying?
It depends. It's not the fact that they sent a lawyer. It's that the lawyer is able to vet what is legal and what's not legal. And the lawyer is able to be like, all right, this information is illegal information.
It's illegal. Is it legal or illegal to get political dirt on your opponent?
Depends from who.
It depends on. Okay, so what if it comes from Russians?
If it comes from the Russian government and it comes from them hacking an email, then that you should not be bringing that from the Russians into the campaign. That is definitely illegal. What
if it came from people within the Russian government that may have had knowledge about Trump's visit to Moscow, such as Russian intelligence?
I think any smart campaign would want not to bring it into the campaign, but would send their media to go interview.
No. My question is that collusion to get information?
If it was a Russian citizen that are you talking about there's a normal citizen that had dirt on him?
Russian intelligence.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be talking to Russian intelligence if you're
So if you did get your information from Russian intelligence, that is collusion.
Well, collusions I think is a little different, but it's definitely not.
Then what is collusion? Here we go again. I mean, what is collusion then?
Collusion, I think it's when you start planning together. I think when you start making systematic plans, strategic plans together. I think getting.
Okay, so do you have any evidence that Trump did anything even remotely like that?
I have evidence that he may have wanted to. I don't have evidence. I don't
want to.
What?
Is it illegal to want to? Is that collusion or?
It shows smoke. It shows so.
Oh yeah, see, I hear that often. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Except
right. So where there's smoke, you can't blame someone for snooping around anymore. If sometimes the intent is just enough to get a warrant. The intent itself, just the fact that.
So when the Hillary campaign and the DNCs conspired with a foreign agent, Christopher Steele, who was getting hurt on their political opponent from Russians. That's not collusion, of course. Of
I don't
course.
see collusion there at all. No. But like you gotta understand, remember when Trump was in Florida and was on stage on public TV or whatever, and he was like, Russia, you should dig and you should release those emails, keep digging.
What does that mean in your imagination? Because a conspiracy theorist can hear the exact same thing that I hear, but their interpretation of the exact same words is totally different. Like they see conspiracy in what seems pretty normal.
I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I'm saying he did this. All right.
Okay. So what? Who cares?
Shows that he would want. He's encouraging a foreign power to hack an American.
No. Actually, he's talking about emails that were already hacked.
Right. But like he was definitely not frowning on this behavior.
So what? I don't frown on it. I want them to leak dirt on Hillary too, and Trump and everyone else. So what's wrong?
I personally would rather it's not that I'm pro like secret shit, but like I definitely don't want them to be secret.
Well, you seem to be. It seems like you.
I'm not cool with other nations hacking our shit, bro. Like,
are the people better off knowing the truth about Hillary or no?
They probably are, but the means does not justify the ends.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that the Russian government hacked the emails. I mean, so James Clapper says that, but he's an unreliable source.
I know who did it, but Trump thought that was the Russians. Like Trump said, Russia, if you're listening, Trump himself
was Russia. He was campaign boasting based upon media reports that already existed who are reasserting something that was already asserted.
It shows a clear misunderstanding of how wrong that is. Like,
how is it wrong? What's wrong about what is wrong?
You're encouraging a foreign nation to
leak dirt. Yeah, sure. That's what Hillary's campaign.
Like, because if you're saying that this is okay to hack, it was okay to hack. Go ahead, leak. You're benefiting everybody.
No, I don't think he said it's okay to hack. He said, so given that you already have the emails, go ahead and leak them.
Which encourages future hacking, right? Because think about it. If you're like, first
of all, we don't know that Russia did that in the first place. That's just an assertion presented with
Trump made that assertion. Trump is going off this assertion. He's saying that in his mind, Russia did it. And he
also said he doesn't think it was Russia. So.
Now he said that, but in that speech, he said, Russia, if you're listening to me, he said Russia. You can't say.
Right. But in the context. When he's giving a campaign speech, boasting, obviously. So, I mean, why wouldn't you take that into account? Isn't it obvious what the general meaning is? The general meaning of what he's saying.
Patriotic American would want to say something.
That's the general meaning of what he was saying. He's saying, fuck Hillary.
Any patriotic American would not want to say that encourage any foreign nation to hack any form of American servers of government, whether they be.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all. I mean, if our government is engaged in dirt and crimes and cheating their primary opponents out of the nomination, I certainly do want that
foreign
information.
Nation to do it.
Absolutely, any nation, any person, any personal hacker, anyone.
I disagree. A personal hacker within the nation's great. But I wouldn't want some foreign nation doing it. The source and methodology is not important to me. See,
at all.
You're saying that the ends justifies the means. I don't think the end does.
In this case, yes, not always, but in this case,
I don't think in any case. I don't think it's okay to let yourself be like, oh, it's okay if you do this one time. It sends the wrong.
Wait, but we don't even know that happened in the first place.
Sure.
I mean, you just believe that, but you've not explained why you believe that.
Well, I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other nutshell. But
why do you believe it? I mean, it
doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what Trump believes. And in this speech, he said,
I'm talking to you, though. I'm not talking to Trump. Like, I can explain. If you ask me any belief that I have, I can tell you at least why I believe that.
First off, no, you're saying I believe something. I never said I believe. I said Trump.
You believe Russians hacked the DNC emails.
What?
You believe Russians hacked the DNC emails?
I believe that is the best information we have.
Okay, why do you believe that?
That's the best information we have.
Why do you believe that's the best information?
What?
Why do you believe that's the best information that we have?
Because that's what the people who know what happened say it happened.
Well, how do you know that they know what happened? And how do you know they're not?
This whole thing, dude, I could get into it is about like Cozy Bear and another one's called Papa Bear, and it's about like two different hackers who are known to work for the Gremlin and their methods.
Okay. So you read that report and you found that to be convincing.
Hey, I didn't say I found it convincing. Does it matter what I think? Does it matter what I think?
Well, we're exploring your beliefs. I mean, you have a conspiracy theory.
My belief is that Trump said Russia. I have it on video. He said Russia. I don't care what I think. I care what he thinks.
But so what? I'm like, I would respond to that. So what? What does that show? I don't know.
That shows that he totally does not think it was a bad thing for Russia to hack that email.
Well, hang on a second. We don't know that Russia actually did.
Was he acting like he approved or disapproved of the actions of Russia?
Okay, so
accused.
Okay, that's not actually a conspiracy theory or a belief. That's just a fact.
Yeah, that is.
So, you're the one Trump said that. I don't really see what you think that proves exactly, except that
it proves that he does not disapprove of what the accusations are. You know, like it proves that if the accusations are true, he was okay with this behavior.
And so that means he's a KGB agent, or what is that?
He's unpatriotic in my eyes. Like,
okay, so he's not patriotic because the person who was financing information from Russians to be used against him in the election. That person.
Hold on. Now you're always going far out there. Like, let's just.
Not far out there. These are facts. No. It's a known fact that the Hillary campaign financed the Steele dossier.
Right.
That's a fact. It's a known fact that information about Trump came from Russians. These are known facts. And so that person is the person that Trump is talking about. The one
who didn't know that at the time, did he?
No, he didn't. But it's still true. It's still true.
Yeah, well, hold on. But I'm trying to establish a mentality of this man. You know, the mentality that he had and the mentality that he was.
So the dirty, corrupt politician who he was running against, who was buying information from Russians to be used against him politically.
Which he did not know any of that.
Go ahead and leak that dirt on her. So, and I don't have a problem with that, by the way. Okay, so he's not patriotic enough. Therefore, he's a KGB agent.
You cannot encourage a foreign nation that you're in conflict with almost.
No, we're not in conflict with. Hang on a second. That's another media myth that is occurring. Russia's not an enemy country. We are not at war with Russia. And there are over 3,000 Russian businesses.
The only reason we're not at war with Russia is because we've been very lenient on them.
Okay. Should we be at war with Russia?
It depends on you. Why are you asking me?
Because we're talking about your conspiracy theories and your beliefs.
Dude, I don't give a fuck, all right? Like, I really don't care what you're talking about. What I care about is establishing a moral character of the guy running for president who believes it's okay for a foreign nation to hack us, you know?
Right. And the other candidate thought it was okay to buy information from Russians and use it against him in the election.
They bought it from Steele, who worked with the CIA and the NSA on hundreds of cases. You know, like this is actually. Yes, he did, dude. He's been working with us for a decade plus. Like he's part of MS6, MI6.
No. It's since come out. You're kind of uninformed on this issue, but it's since come out that information was being fed to him from the State Department and people like Sidney Blumenthal, close Clinton confidants. So the entire thing was concocted by the Hillary campaign itself.
You're making a lot of accusations.
Thanks to Christopher Steele. Some of the information did come from the State Department. That's a fact.
So you're going to tell me Steele never worked with the NSA in the past?
No, that's not what I said.
Well, what
I'm talking about this specific dossier.
Is Steele an ally?
Specific dossier, information that for sure came from Russians.
All
right. You're talking about the moral character and the patriotism of one of the candidates. We're talking about the other thing about this particular candidate who's Miss Patriot and Miss High Standing Moral Character, millions and millions of dollars funneled to her charity that exists for the sole purpose of peddling influence. Among these, tens of
millions. Or is this about Trump? What is it about?
Millions of dollars from Russians. No, I'm saying, who are we comparing Trump to?
No, exactly. We are comparing Trump to the law, the letter of the law. You either break
because you were talking about the campaign and you brought up Hillary. I didn't bring up Hillary, actually.
I never brought up Hillary. When did
you
I
did.
bring up Hillary?
Talking about Trump's campaign speech when he said leak the
Right.
dirt on
That's
Hillary.
Trump. That's what Trump said. Trump encouraged and did not just encourage, but he was actually seemed quite happy that a foreign nation hacked one of an American campaign.
Right. The same way that Hillary was quite happy that a foreign nation was leaking dirt on her political opponent. So, it doesn't seem that you don't seem that upset about it to me. I mean, it doesn't seem
I think
like a lot.
was an American ally that was trusted by a lot of people in the
American ally. Russia's an American ally now. We know for sure.
We're talking about steel. Are we talking about steel or Russia?
Hey, I want to thank you for actually taking